It's nothing that exciting. I just fell over the back of the couch.
Looking at it when it first happened, that was very shocking. It looked really bad.
I remember when I came out of my fog and looked down at my leg, and I realized, holy crap.
At 17, Tia Torres left home with 2 Arabian horses, an Angora goat, and a dog. No money, no plan, and nowhere to go. Long before Villalobos and pit bulls and Parolees made her famous, she was building a life around one truth. Animals felt safer to her than people ever did. But behind the cameras, Tia's life was far more complicated than viewers realized. So what really happened before she became one of television's most recognizable rescuers? And what private battles was she fighting while the world watched her save everyone else? Join us as we uncover the full story of Tia Torres, a home that didn't hold together. Tia Torres had it rough right from the beginning. The type of home she grew up in was not the kind that gave you a soft landing. Her mother passed away when she was young, leaving her to be raised by her stepmother, and the love for animals that would eventually define her entire adult life was something her stepmother helped cultivate. One of the few genuinely stabilizing forces in a childhood that did not have many of them. She describes herself as someone who came from a broken home. By the time she was 17, she had had enough of whatever was inside that house and walked out. She not only walked out, but she took her animals with her. 2 Arabian horses, an Angora goat, a Catahoula leopard dog named Cougar. She loaded them up and left, and then she was a teenager on the road with a small livestock situation and absolutely no backup plan. What followed was the kind of young adulthood that builds a specific type of person. She moved from place to place, homeless for stretches, sleeping in her van or her horse trailer when there was nowhere else to go. She did not have family to call. She did not have savings. She had her animals and the conviction that she would figure it out. She did figure it out, but not before spending years in conditions that most people would find unendurable and developing the toughness that makes her who she is on camera. A woman who does not panic, who does not fold, who has been through harder things than whatever is in front of her right now and knows it. So, what conditions did she find herself in? The army and gang territory story. Most people who find themselves homeless as teenagers with a small collection of animals do not end up enlisting in the United States Army. Tia Torres is not most people. She joined the Army, took the entrance exams, and scored high enough that her recruiters recommended she pursue a medical track. She decided against it. She chose truck driving instead and became an Army truck driver, hauling supplies and equipment for infantry troops, a physically demanding job in a predominantly male environment, and she did it for 6 years. The military gave her structure, income, and the kind of institutional belonging that a teenager who had walked out of her home at 17 had never had access to before. When she finished her service, she went back to Los Angeles with an idea of what she wanted to do next. The city of Los Angeles hired her as a youth gang counselor, someone who went into the housing projects, the drug houses, and the gang neighborhoods, and talked to the young people inside them. That job took her into the world of people walking the line between the law and breaking it. It made her curious about what happened to those same people after they crossed the line and came out the other side. It was the direct intellectual and emotional predecessor to everything she would later build at Villalobos. The conviction that people who have been incarcerated deserve a second chance, and that the most powerful way to give someone that chance is to trust them with something that needs them. She just needed to find the animal that would make it all click into place. So, what were her next moves? The dog from a murder scene changed her entire life. The moment that turned Tia Torres from a gang counselor with a love of animals into the founder of the largest pit bull rescue in the United States is the kind of origin story that sounds invented. She was at a Los Angeles animal shelter when she saw animal control officers walking a pit bull into the facility. The dog had been confiscated from the scene of a double homicide. Deal gone catastrophically wrong, in which she was the only survivor. She was brindle, muscular, female, and visibly terrified. As the officers were putting her into a kennel, she slipped her lead and ran, full speed through the shelter, and she ran directly toward Tia Torres's then-toddler daughters, Tanya and Mariah. Not aggressively, she ran the way a frightened animal runs toward the thing that feels safest. Tia caught her. The dog's name became Tatanka, and something changed in Tia's understanding of what these animals were and what was being done to them. A breed so thoroughly associated with violence and danger that the public had stopped asking whether the reputation was earned or assigned, and that was paying the price of that assumption in shelters across the country every single day. She did not rescue Tatanka and move on. She started a pit bull advocacy group. She found a wolf dog on her doorstep, left by a relative who decided the animal wasn't working out as a guard dog, and fell in love with wolf dogs too. She named her rescue operation Villalobos, Spanish for Village of Wolves, and she started building the thing that would eventually become the show. Caring for animals might have come to Tia naturally, but unfortunately, there was one lesson she had to learn the hard way. The evidence she hid with a tattoo. Tia Torres was in a relationship that she does not discuss in extensive detail publicly, but which has been documented through the evidence she has left behind. Her first significant relationship, the one that produced her daughter Tanya, ended because of abusive behavior, gang involvement, and dealing on the man's part. The details of what happened inside that relationship are something Torres has kept largely private, but the broad outline is clear. She was with someone who hurt her, who was involved in criminal activity, and from whom she eventually had to escape. The escape, at one point, involved living outside the house in a trailer, not leaving the property entirely, living in a trailer on the property because being inside the house was not safe. That is the kind of domestic calculation that people who have never been in an abusive relationship do not fully understand, and it tells you something about the circumstances she was going through. At another point, she was attacked by her ex-partner's rooster, a detail that sounds absurd until you understand that the rooster was used as a tool of intimidation, and that it was a pit bull named Duke who pulled the animal off her face. She was saved by the kind of dog that everyone around her was trying to tell her was dangerous. She had the dog's paw tattooed on her body afterward, and she used that tattoo to replace the one she had previously gotten to represent her ex-partner, covering his mark with the paw of the animal that had protected her from him. That tattoo replacement is one of the most quietly powerful acts of reclamation in this entire story. She literally replaced the symbol of the man who hurt her with the image of the dog who saved her. But that didn't stop her from finding love. Then she fell in love with a man in prison. The story of how Tia Torres met Aaron Marcus Jackson is one of those coincidences that only makes sense if you accept that she was always going to end up finding people through animals, even the people she was going to love. She rescued a pit bull and was trying to track down its owner. She used an online database to trace the registration. The name that came back was Aaron Marcus Jackson. The address associated with him was a California state prison, where he was serving time for a shootout with Orange County Sheriff's deputies. He had been sentenced to 14 years. She went to find him anyway. She wanted the dog to go back to its owner, and the owner happened to be incarcerated. What happened when she made contact was something neither of them had anticipated. A correspondence that started about a dog and became something else entirely. They became pen pals in 2001, writing letters back and forth, building a relationship through the mail while he was behind bars, and she was building Villalobos from scratch in California. By the time he was released in 2006, they were already in love. They married shortly after his release in Palm Springs, California. The rescue that had been her whole life became their project together. He co-founded Villalobos with her, worked the operations, and appeared to be doing exactly what the show would later claim Parolees could do: find purpose through animals and a clean life on the other side of prison. That lasted approximately 1 year. In August 2007, just over a year after their wedding, a county detective named Agent Dorsey arrested Aaron for his involvement in a series of auto break-ins in the Santa Clarita and Antelope Valleys. The charges were not minor. In total, he faced 11 felony charges, including second-degree burglary, grand theft auto, and attempted murder. He was convicted and sentenced to 15 years and 8 months. This means that for the entire run of Pit Bulls and Parolees, all 19 seasons, all 203 episodes, Tia Torres was running a rescue center, raising 4 children, managing a television production, surviving floods and relocations and financial crises, and doing all of it without her husband present because her husband was in prison for the second time. The show premiered in October 2009. By that point, Aaron had been back behind bars for 2 years. He was released in 2022 after serving his full sentence. But by then, the marriage was already over, and the way she chose to announce it is quite memorable. The Facebook announcement. The end of Tia Torres' marriage to Aaron Marcus Jackson was not a dramatic press release or a tearful interview on a morning show. In 2018, she posted about it on Facebook, mentioned that she had been divorced for a number of years, that she wasn't sure where Aaron even was, or whether he was still in prison, and made a joke about wanting a spin-off show where her dogs helped her find someone new. The end of her marriage was handled with the same blunt honesty that had always defined Tia Torres. But the real turning point in her story was not about romance. It was about a rescue center, a city called New Orleans, and a decision that would reshape her entire life. The Villalobos Rescue Center was founded in Agua Dulce, California. It grew from a small wolf dog operation into the largest pit bull rescue in the United States. And then, in 2010, with financial pressures building, legal complications mounting, and a city in Louisiana that had been pulling at her since she had helped rescue animals after Hurricane Katrina, Tia Torres decided to move the whole operation to New Orleans. Pit Bulls and Parolees premiered on Animal Planet on October 30th, 2009. It ran for 19 seasons and 203 episodes over 13 years. At its peak, it was one of the most watched shows on the network, a program that managed to be simultaneously a dog rescue show, a criminal justice advocacy platform, a family drama, and a genuinely moving document of what second chances look like in practice. What it did not do was make Tia Torres wealthy. Her estimated net worth is approximately $300,000, a figure that, for someone who spent 13 years as the face of a hit cable television show while simultaneously running the largest pit bull rescue in the country, is modest to the point of being quietly shocking. Reality television has made vastly larger fortunes for people whose work was considerably less demanding and considerably less meaningful. The rescue itself has been in chronic financial difficulty for most of its existence. Villalobos is a non-profit, and the operational costs of housing, feeding, vetting, and rehabilitating hundreds of dogs at any given time are enormous. The show's earnings and public donations have been the primary income sources, and neither has ever been quite sufficient to make the operation feel financially secure. The financial struggle was only one part of Villalobos' challenge. The rescue also had to survive the city itself, a place Tia Torres loved deeply, but one that repeatedly tested everything she had built. New Orleans has not been kind to the rescue. The decision to move Villalobos to New Orleans in 2010 brought the rescue into one of the most flood-prone cities in America. And New Orleans has delivered on that promise multiple times in the years since. Hurricane Ida struck Louisiana in August 2021, causing significant damage to the Villalobos facility. A 2021 episode of the show documented the continued damage the rescue location receives from storms and hurricanes. And during that episode, Torres announced that the rescue had secured additional property in an effort to distribute the risk of any single storm wiping out the entire operation. The anxiety of running a facility that houses hundreds of animals in a city with a documented history of catastrophic flooding is something that sits underneath every season of the show without ever being fully addressed. Every time a major storm hits the Gulf Coast, the question of what happens to the animals at Villalobos is real and immediate. Tia Torres has had to evacuate dogs. She has had to make decisions about which animals could be moved and how quickly. She has had to watch parts of her operation get damaged by water while simultaneously managing the animals inside it. And she has done all of this while maintaining the show's production schedule, keeping the Parolees employed, and running the day-to-day operations of a rescue that never fully stops, regardless of what the weather is doing. As if that wasn't enough stress for one person to handle, Animal Control came knocking on her door as well. Running the largest pit bull rescue in the country means running an operation that is subject to inspection, regulation, and the scrutiny that comes with housing a large number of animals of a breed that is subject to breed-specific legislation in multiple jurisdictions. Animal Control has made multiple appearances at Villalobos over the years, some routine, some unexpected, some arriving while the cameras were rolling for the show and becoming part of the documented record of what Tia Torres has had to navigate. Each visit carries the specific anxiety of someone who knows that a single inspector's assessment on a single day could jeopardize everything she has built. She has been forthright about the pressure these visits create. The show has aired footage of Animal Control arriving unannounced, of inspectors walking through the facility, and of Torres responding to findings and requirements. None of it is comfortable. Running Villalobos meant enduring inspections, criticism, and constant pressure. But the rescue was never just a place for abandoned dogs. It was the beginning of a family that Tia Torres built by opening her life to those who had nowhere else to turn. Making a family out of people who had nowhere else to go. One of the most defining facts about Tia Torres, a fact that the show documents but that tends to get overshadowed by the dog rescues and the prison drama, is that she built her family the same way she built her rescue, by showing up for people that nobody else was claiming. Her daughters Tanya and Mariah were her biological children from her relationship before Aaron. Her daughter Mariah is Mariah Torres, who appears regularly on the show and who runs the Tayo Tavern in New Orleans' French Quarter alongside her sister. Her adopted twin sons, Kanani and Kelly, came into her life as teenagers, friends of her daughters who were having a difficult time and needed guidance. They began spending time at the rescue, working on weekends, finding their footing in a place that gave them structure and purpose and belonging. She eventually adopted them. They share a pit bull named Monster. They appear on the show. They are, in every functional sense, her sons, not because a biological accident produced them, but because she chose them when they needed to be chosen, and she has kept choosing them ever since. That pattern of choosing people and animals who have been overlooked and deciding they belong is not a television persona. It is the organizing principle of her entire life. It is what she was doing before the cameras and what she continues to do when they are not there. If she had stayed in that broken home in California instead of leaving at 17 with her horses, would Villalobos have ever existed? Or did every hard thing that happened to her have to happen exactly the way it did for there to be anything left to build? And after everything she has been through, do you think she would do any of it differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.